Chapter 29. Ubuntu packed up camp in preparation to leave. Maya ate the last of the fruit from the gorillas and watched the smoke peter from the fire last night. "Here you go," Ubuntu said, handing her a leather jacket lined with thick wool. "You will be needing this," she continued, packing up. "And now we both have empty backpacks. So freeing," she smiled. "You know what? Why don't we just leave them here for future travelers?" Maya looked around. "What future travelers?" she said. "Okay, they might be us. I just don't want to carry it," Ubuntu replied. They set out and traveled through the foothills of the barren wasteland. The sky was full of thin, light gray streaks of clouds. They passed thousands of shrubs, dozens of trees. It was a harsh environment. They saw but one or two birds the entire time. In the distance, so gradually, it would almost go unnoticed, especially since you didn't know what you were looking at as it grows, appeared what looked like a second horizon, something between the clouds and the first mountains. And it was a second level of mountains, immaculate mountains, larger than life itself, growing, looming in the whistling clouds. "Ubuntu," Maya started. "Yes, Maya," Ubuntu answered. "Ubuntu," Maya said again, eyes fixed on this horizon of dreamlike scale, sizeless. Maya couldn't comprehend. "The Himalayas," Ubuntu announced. They were so big, Maya swore she heard the mountains emitting a low, deep, all-pervading hum. They passed between first peaks, crossed the threshold, passed through the invisible ancient gateway to the land of the gods. They rode slowly through the foggy mountains. The peaks towered over them like skyscrapers to an infant. Maya was in awe. She was moved to swelling emotions beyond definition. She truly felt she had stumbled into another plane of existence because she kept forgetting where her body was. They navigated big cold rivers, which became big frozen glaciers. The snow blew and joined the blowing fog, which in turn joined the clouds of the mountains. The boards beneath their feet flowed with heat to transfer through their feet into their core. "Is this where Dharma lives?" Maya asked. "It is," Ubuntu replied. "The difficulty is finding her in all this bliss." Something shrieked unnaturally in the distance. "That didn't sound like a yak," Maya said. "The majestic landscape does come with unwarranted inhabitants." "Stay close," Ubuntu said in a low tone. The shrieks continued. Maya tightened. Her eyes darted around, scanning for attackers. Suddenly, a loud shriek incoming wrecked Maya flying from her board. The dark gray fog was sparked and streaked with electric blue illuminations. The entities were undistinguished, like lightning-fast phantoms. "Snow wraiths!" Ubuntu screamed. She slung her board with fierce tenacity. It boomeranged around, slicing through the lightning bodies. It only made them angrier. They shrieked with enhanced intensity. Maya clambered over to Ubuntu. They hovered back to back. Ubuntu's board began to glow a deep orange. The wraith attacked. Ubuntu countered with a blow that emitted sparks and flashing bolts. Maya's board illuminated purple too. She turned and took 2 sprinting steps to shoot her board back like a missile. It was a hit. The twitching creature fell flickering to the snow and disappeared. But it wasn't good enough. Ubuntu and Maya struggled with the several remaining snow wraiths. The shrieking, buzzing phantoms had them surrounded. One unleashed a tendril, striking Maya with a devastating blow. Ubuntu moved to her aid, but was struck down too. She rose and fought with powerful attacks that Maya had never seen her use before, but she couldn't win. Maya tried to rise to fight, but couldn't find the strength. "Ubuntu," she cried, a pure horror of impossibility in her voice. Just then, a blinding light came crashing through the scene. There were beams, exploding flashes, silence, but for the odd shrieking wraith. In fact, the sound of wind and snow had disappeared as well. The wraiths subsided, several dead, and the last one shrieked and dashed into the mountains. The yellow light evaded. Maya lowered her arm from her eyes. There was a woman with long, radiant, golden blonde hair, blowing in the wind, seeming to float. She was wearing a loose, flowing, light brown dress with lines of golden twisting patterns. Maya stared. The miraculous woman approached her. As she approached, Maya thought she saw something. She sat up, still, and stared. The woman came closer. Maya's awe turned to actual shock. She looked at Ubuntu and back at the woman, now standing in her midst. Maya sat transfixed. The soft whistling wind that passed between them was the only sound. "Mom?" said Maya through strained vocal cords. "What?" Ubuntu approached them. "Maya," the woman said, with a face so full of love, "is this another vision, Ubuntu? Is this real?" she asked as she looked with tears in her eyes at her mother. "It is real, Maya," Ubuntu smiled, teary-eyed. Maya stared so deeply at the woman. Dharma opened her arms and waited for her daughter to embrace. Maya looked at Ubuntu one last time, then thrust herself into her mother's arms. They squeezed each other tight. They laughed and cried. Dharma held her daughter out by the shoulders to look at her. She laughed again, so full of joy. How, she pleaded. "Anything is possible," Dharma replied. "This is not possible. How is this possible?" Maya wiped her tears and laughed. "I am not the one to ask. All I know is that I am here, seeing you for the first time once more," said Dharma. Ubuntu joined them. "It is so good to see you again," Ubuntu said to Dharma. They hugged. "So good to see you," Dharma replied. "Come, let us rest and warm up. There is so much to talk about." She looked at Maya and laughed out loud once more, losing herself into a hug with her daughter, who was lost but now is found.